genuine parts and Ford-trained technicians. Plus, if you quote Ford 20 when you book with us online, you can receive £20 off. Book now at ford.co.uk or visit your local participating dealer. Ford Service. No one knows your Ford better.
Retail customers only. At participating Ford dealers. Cannot be used with other promotions. T's and C's apply. Search Ford Service for more information.
This week at Tesco, buy 2 items from our chilled party food range, like tempura prawns or mozzarella sticks, and get a third one free. So for every 2 people you invite, you can ask another for free. But who? Linda from Accounts or Julio from Magaluf 2010? Tesco, delivering Christmas for 100 years. Cheapest item free, selected stores while stocks last, ends 1st of January.
What better way to celebrate the holidays than with a subscription to TuneIn Premium? With a bottomless library of the world's best audio, it's the gift that keeps on giving. Search Premium to upgrade today.
The swagger of a perfect dunk. The rush of a 3 made from all the way downtown. The adrenaline surge of great defense. Can you feel the goosebumps yet? There's nothing like live NBA and nothing like listening live on TuneIn.
Giannis down the lane to the rim, throwing right corner 3. Another
TuneIn Premium brings you every minute of the NBA season so you can be there when it matters most. Never miss the action as it happens. Hear the ball you love. Hear it live on TuneIn. Search NBA today to start listening.
Ho, ho, ho! Make my job easier this year with a subscription to TuneIn Premium, featuring the world's largest selection of music, news, podcasts, and sports. It's a gift they'll enjoy every day, all year long. Ho, ho, ho! Happy holidays! Search Premium to upgrade today.
When you're not listening to your team, take it to the end zone, the rim, or the net. Keep up with the biggest moments in sports by following TuneIn on social media.
Block, Cook into the end zone for the touchdown.
From reminders of the live top games to tips of the best sports stations and podcasts.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip Bayless.
Follow and TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
4 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
So we have about 43 minutes now until the closing bell in the equity market, and the major benchmarks are trading just off their worst levels, or their low point, I should say, of the day. Let's take you to the Bloomberg Macro Squawk Desk. Bill Maloney is there with the latest on price action. Hey, Bill.
And good afternoon, Doug. That's right. U.S. stocks trading lower in a quiet tape right now. Dow's currently down 58 points. S&P's dropped 5. NASDAQ is lower by 17. The U.S. 10-year yield at 1.83%. Gold is little changed. Small caps fall 2 points, and just 3 of the main 11 S&P sectors are trading higher, led by gains in consumer staples and consumer discretionary. Nasdaq biotechs drop 11 points. Transports decline 30. Semis fade 6, and the VIX is higher by 12%. Leaders to the upside in the Dow include Home Depot and IBM, while Apple and Goldman Sachs led to the downside. After earnings, Thor Industries fell 3.6%. And in other news, CNBC reported that Morgan Stanley is cutting about 2% of its workforce. And the USDA's Purdue says he doesn't believe the December 15th tariffs will be implemented. Wrapping things up, some of the names pointing after the bell tonight include Chewy and Toll Brothers. Live from the First Breaking News Desk, I'm Bill Maloney. Doug?
All right, Bill, thank you. Weakness in the dollar with the Bloomberg Dollar Spot Index down about 0.1%. Similar pullback in the yen vis-a-vis the dollar, and we're seeing a much more weakness in the offshore Chinese yuan now, down about 0.2% against the dollar at 7.0345. I'm Doug Krisner. That is the Bloomberg Business Flash.
Doug, thanks so much. You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week right here on Bloomberg Radio.
It's getting better, a little better.
Yes, getting a little bit better. This story online at businessweek.com and on the Bloomberg terminal, it definitely caught our attention about things are getting better for President Trump. Josh Green is national correspondent at Bloomberg Business Week on the phone from Washington, D.C. Also with us, Jill Weber, Bloomberg Business Week editor in our Bloomberg Interactive Broker Studio in New York. Hey, Josh, let's kick it off with you. So, it's funny. Jason and I were talking earlier when we kicked off our show and just saying, you almost don't even remember that the impeachment is going on. There's so much other news flow. It's interesting, different times in terms of impeachment hearings. They kind of feel like they've faded to the background. Talk to us a little bit about what this all means for the president.
Well, sure. I mean, in my column, I step back even further and say, if you go back to where we were just a year ago, I mean, if you go back, the Federal Reserve had just hiked for the fourth time, markets were plummeting, Trump had just sent out an infamous tweet in which he declared himself tariff man, which made a lot of people nervous, and of course, the Mueller report still loomed as something that looked like it could end its presidency. And, here we are looking, in the wake of Friday's blockbuster jobs report. Not only do we have an economy that's healthier than a lot of people thought, unemployment is going to be as low on Election Day next year as it has been since the Eisenhower era. And yes, the president is probably going to be impeached, but there's no real evidence that suggests that's hurt his polling numbers, and we have yet to see any indication that any Republican is going to abandon him. So, with the proviso that it's never a nice thing to be impeached, I argue that Trump is actually in better shape to be reelected than a lot of people realize.
Josh, the thing that kind of leads me to tack on a question to the end of that, though, is like that ultimately means that this race almost could become his to lose, right? Because these numbers are so out of his control that, as long as he doesn't blow himself up, like he's basically, got this thing in a pretty good place.
I think you nailed it. And the big variable, it seemed to me, is will Trump blow himself up? I mean, one of the things that has helped him get to such a bright place is that the markets have kind of collectively decided to believe that the U.S. and China are probably going to land on some kind of a phase one trade deal. However, that has yet to happen, and we've seen over the last couple of weeks, on days when that sentiment has been shaken, the market has fallen quite dramatically. So I point out in the column, U.S. tariffs are set to jump on Friday on $160 billion worth of Chinese goods. I think right now, most people don't believe that things are moving in that direction. But if, for instance, Trump were to slap on a new round of tariffs or intensify his trade war, then certainly you could see a lot of these rosy economic numbers turn bad. And, when we look to growth next year, it's still not great. It's better than what forecasts were showing 6 months ago. But, this is still an economy I think is a bit tenuous. But overall, looking from the standpoint of today, and I haven't checked Twitter in the last 10 minutes, so as far as I know, nothing has changed. But you have historically low unemployment. You have some growth. Impeachment doesn't look like it's going to be the political albatross that a lot of people thought. Trump has clearly survived the Mueller report, and, by and large, Republicans have stuck with him. So I think all things told, the picture has been brightening for him over the last couple of months as we go into an election year.
And so, Josh, no one really understands the base of support as well as you do. Given the work that you've done around Steve Bannon and the 2016 election, help us understand the president's sort of constituency at this point. Has it grown? Has it maintained? How do you characterize it?
I think it's maintained, but I think the important way to think about this is that our historical frame for how we think about presidents running for re-election is fundamentally broken, right? Trump is historically unpopular compared to other recent presidents, and yet, I argue in this column that his political superpower is really his ability to polarize the electorate, and he's polarized it in such a way that he isn't winning a lot of support from Democrats or independents, but he has kept the Republican Party and more importantly, the Republican base with him throughout this impeachment process. And certainly from the standpoint of today, I think it's a better than 50-50 chance of being reelected. So, through all of the endless drama of the last 2.5, 3 years, he's managed to maintain a loyalty that other Republican presidents, somebody like George H.W. Bush, who ran for re-election and not a great economy, weren't able to do, and that stands him in pretty good stead, I think, to be reelected.
And so how that precedent, it should also bode well for Republicans who are also going to be campaigning. How are the Republican and the Republican camp, how are they talking about these numbers and having so much wind at their back?
I just got about 20 seconds.
I think that, they are certainly encouraged by the positives in the economy. I think they're also encouraged to see that it doesn't look like there's going to be any kind of a death blow from Trump coming out of impeachment. They know that Trump is the popular Republican leading the ticket, and as long as he's there, they've probably got a better chance to win in the most hardcore Republican areas.
All right, we're going to leave it there. Josh Green, national correspondent for Bloomberg Businessweek, on the phone from D.C. Joel Weber, the editor of Bloomberg Businessweek, here in our Bloomberg Interactive Broker Studio. And we should also point out Mike Bloomberg also seeking the Democratic presidential nomination. He's the founder and majority owner of Bloomberg LP, the parent company of Bloomberg News and Bloomberg Radio. Well, coming up, we're going to talk about riding a Peloton, having a breakfast pizza at work on Wall Street.
It's our most read story on the Bloomberg all day. This is Bloomberg Radio.
This is a Bloomberg Market Minute. Investors are waiting for trade news and what they hope will be either the rollback or delay of tariffs on Chinese goods set to take effect next week. Till then, we're seeing losses of about 0.2% to 0.25%. The Dow down 70, the Nasdaq 20, the S&P 6. Apple may cut production of its iPhone 11 Pro and 11 Max models by about 1/4. Rosenblatt Securities says sales of the two high-end models had been weak last month, and the production cuts would be for this quarter and next quarter. Rosenblatt says sales of the iPhone 11 were stable, and that cut into the high-end sales. Destination Maternity has canceled its bankruptcy auction, leaving Marquee Brands the winner. That makes it more likely the chain stores will indeed close. Marquee had planned to keep the name but close the stores. And General Motors is putting its own money into keeping some part of its Lordstown, Ohio plant open. It's loaning the buyer of the plant $40 million to help the startup roll out an electric pickup truck. I'm Joan Doniger, Bloomberg Radio.
You know your body, and you know when something's off, when something doesn't feel quite right. Don't ignore symptoms like fatigue, joint pain, rashes, and fever. They could be signs of lupus. Listen to your body. Take care of yourself. We're here to help you take control of your health. Learn how at BeFierceTakeControl.org. Brought to you by the Lupus Foundation of America and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
Are you interested in a challenging and exciting career? One where you can be part of solving complex challenges across industries and geographies. Bloomberg's ever-expanding technology, data, news, and media services foster innovation, empower clients, and offer nearly limitless opportunities for career growth. Visit Bloomberg.com/careers today to view our current job opportunities. Bloomberg LP is an equal opportunity employer. The address once again is Bloomberg.com/careers. In-depth analysis.
Christmas. A time for celebrating, unwrapping, and unwinding. Capture every moment with an epic iPhone 6s with a 12-megapixel camera. Now only $12.99 a month from Tesco Mobile, saving you £72. It's just one of the ways we're celebrating 100 years of great value. Go in store or search Tesco Mobile. Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
Saving £2 per month over 36 months was £14.99. 36-month credit and rolling monthly usage agreements required. Subject to status. Terms apply. See tescomobile.com/terms.
Smoked salmon for breakfast? Well, it is Christmas. At Asda, our extra special gin, juniper and lemon smoked salmon is just £4 for a 120-gram pack. Or for only £6, get a 200-gram pack of our extra special smoked salmon. Asda, let's make Christmas extra special. Selected stores subject to availability.
Forget the cheese, basket, and socks this holiday season and get the ones you love and even the ones you just kind of like. A subscription to TuneIn Premium. With TuneIn Premium, you'll be giving them the gift they can enjoy all year long. Featuring live NFL, NBA, NHL, and MLB games, commercial-free music, and even podcasts. TuneIn Premium brings the best in audio to you. This year, we're making Santa's job a whole lot easier. So forget the stocking. Stuff their phone with TuneIn Premium. Search Premium to upgrade today.
Want to hear about the latest and greatest things to listen to on TuneIn? For reminders of the biggest live sports games, debates, and breaking news stories, follow @TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to stay connected with the audio that matters to you.
Right now, instead of hearing this, you could be listening to the music that keeps you moving with TuneIn Premium. Find today's biggest songs and all of your favorites commercial-free. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
The swagger of a perfect dunk. The rush of a three made from all the way downtown. The adrenaline surge of great defense. Can you feel the goosebumps yet? There's nothing like live NBA and nothing like listening live on TuneIn.
Giannis down the lane to the rim, throwing right corner three, another
TuneIn Premium brings you every minute of the NBA season, so you can be there when it matters most. Never miss the action as it happens. Hear the ball you love. Hear it live on TuneIn. Search NBA today to start listening.
along the goal line. Martin scores. He takes it home.
Hockey fans, the 2019-20 NHL season is here.
Here's Pietrangelo. He scores.
And you can hear the action live on TuneIn Premium.
Gonna move. Hit a shot. He scores.
From regular season action to the All-Star Game and through the Stanley Cup in June. Hear the home and away call for every game, for every team live. At home or on the go, never miss a game with the NHL on TuneIn Premium.
Upgrade today. In case you didn't know, TuneIn lets you listen to the same radio stations you pick up on your home or car radio, except you can hear them from anywhere. If you want to find a station from somewhere else in the world, navigate to the By Location section under Browse. Keep exploring with TuneIn.
We can't make traffic move faster during rush hour, but we can help you catch up on the news with TuneIn. With live around-the-clock news from MSNBC.
In the UK, they're significantly worse. When the president gets up to the podium...
CNBC and Fox News Talk.
The Fox News poll sizing up the race for 2020 found that each of the 5 top Democrats...
You can use your stop and go for good by staying in touch with the world. Search news to hear what's happening now.
Live from the Bloomberg Interactive Brokers Studio in New York. Bloomberg 1130 to Washington, D.C. Bloomberg 99.1 to Boston. Bloomberg 106.1 to San Francisco. Bloomberg 960 to the country. Sirius XM Channel 119 and around the globe. The Bloomberg Business app and BloombergRadio.com. This is Bloomberg Business Week.
All right, well, coming up, it's the most read story of the day. In a very, very busy news day, we're going to want to get into what you can find at Citi's new headquarters.
Billadons and breakfast pizza. I know I gave it away. I had to.
I know.
It's so, oh my God, count me in.
It's going to be great. Jenny Serrain is going to be here.
Yes.
Dave Wilson also along for his chart of the day. That's all coming up. But first,
let's get a check on the world of business, and let's check in with Doug Krisner.
Before I get you guys caught up on market action, there was an interesting piece in the San Francisco Business Times on how Square, in its new office in Oakland, is not even going to construct a cafeteria. You talk about...
What?
I'm serious. You talk about perks for tech companies. Cafeteria for Square, interestingly, for that company, not one of them.
Bring your lunch, everybody.
I guess so. Brown bag it. Right now we're seeing weakness in the equity trade. To be fair, though, volume is on the light side. S&P 500 trading is about 20% below the 30-day average. So while today may not be very active, we've got a couple of hot points in the week ahead, including a Fed Bank meeting and then a meeting from the ECB. And then there's this deadline in the U.S.-China trade war. Sunday, the issue is whether or not the U.S. is going to go ahead with a planned increase in tariffs targeting $160 billion worth of Chinese goods. This would include toys and smartphones. Dow weaker by 0.3%. S&P 500 down about 0.2%. NASDAQ comp weaker by 0.3%. We were talking earlier about the job cuts at Morgan Stanley. Roughly 2% of the firm's workforce globally, 1,500 jobs. This will include several managing directors. I'm Doug Krisner. That's your Bloomberg Business Flash.
Thanks, Doug. You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week here on Bloomberg Radio. It's Living in the USA. Is that the Doobie Brothers?
No.
Who is
It's
it?
old.
It is.
It's not James Brown, is it? No. Chuck Berry? I'm going through a list. I'm Googling.
You are.
I'm totally cheating.
Oh, you can't do that. Who is it then?
Well, yes.
I remember the Masters in Business
Steve Miller?
interview. Absolutely. There you go.
Thank you, Google.
Yeah.
I don't think you can really celebrate after you guessed 6 times and then Googled it.
Hey, I got there.
Anyway, Dave Wilson.
Living in the USA. How about investing in the USA? If
All
you
right.
think about this decade, the 2010s, I know some people like to say the end of 2020 is when the decade's over. But for the sake of argument, let's say the 2010s. they've really been the decade of U.S. stocks. You know, I was curious about it because Friday, I think it was actually on this show, I was talking about how, you know, the U.S. had kind of pulled away from the rest of the world again after having hit a bit of an air pocket, you might say, earlier this quarter. Well, sure enough, you look at the chart, you can see that. I mean, you're not talking a huge lead at this point, a percentage point or so for the MSCI USA index, which I compared with the MSCI World ex-U.S. index, so in other words, other developed markets. Mm-hmm. So you've had this bit of a reversal this quarter, but take a look at the track record. You go through each year, only once in the last 10 years has the U.S. done worse than the rest of the world. So in other words, and they're aiming for 9 out of 10. They're ahead by about 10.
So in other words, but in the U.S.?
Well, that's the way it's been this decade. I mean, the MSCI USA index is ahead by about 10 percentage points this year. And even on a quarterly basis, if indeed they come out ahead this quarter, it would be the 8th time in the last 9 quarters. I mean, you talk about dominance, and here we are getting to the end of a decade. It's always worth looking back. So, I mean, it just goes to show you what we're seeing in the fourth quarter is really a reemergence of what we've seen throughout the last 10 years, which, let's not forget, it's been a period of a bull market, and the U.S. has really been leading the way. If you want to know more, folks, send me an email. I'll get you the chart, the explanation that goes with it, and everything I do going forward. The email address is dwilson@bloomberg.net. That's dwilson@bloomberg.net.
Dave Wilson, thanks so much. You'll be back with us in just a bit with your stock of the day. All right, Jenny Serene is here. The most read story on the Bloomberg: Peloton's breakfast pizza. Traders at Citi, they got all the treats. What's going on downtown?
Yeah, so they have been, for the past 5 years, Citigroup has been revamping its HQ down in Tribeca. And so it's finally starting to finish up. They'll open up their big roof deck where they'll offer yoga classes for all their employees next year. And so, yeah, we got to go on a tour and kind of look through and see some of the big new offerings that they're going to have. And breakfast pizza is one of them in their new eatery. Their trading floors have really gotten swanky, nice floor-to-ceiling windows and lots of light for those guys. And just in general, a much more open office floor plan. You know, even CEO Mike Corbat, he gave up his private office and is just sitting in the kind of in the middle of the room with the rest of his direct reports.
This is really cool space. Thank you, what? Millennials, Gen Z, Gen X, like what?
I think, yeah. So I asked the company, you know, is this like a retention tool or a recruiting tool? And they were like, yes, but so they've been trying to kind of open up their offices a little bit more as they've been trying to kind of consolidate their New York area footprint into this one HQ. So before this started, they had 17 offices spread out across, I think it was like close to 8 million square feet. They're consolidating a lot of those folks into this one building. When all is said and done, I think they'll have like 3 main offices instead. And so that's going to really help them, save obviously a lot on real estate, but also to do that, they really had to open this space up.
They serve smoothies and sushi rolls too, Jason.
Well, it's also this moment where it does feel like Wall Street's going through an almost like existential renovation along with its physical one. You know, we're seeing job cuts at Morgan Stanley today. So all's not super rosy, but there's a focus and there is, some sense that Wall Street's sort of trying to take its people a little more seriously.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at where top MBA students, when they graduate, where they go, more and more you see them going to tech funds or tech companies. And so this is kind of also part of that battle as well in terms of you have to take the people more seriously. And to do that, you really need to kind of think about the office layout.
I just love it. Like, I just think about, for most companies, but I think the banks in particular, like you wanted an office, right? That was a sign of kind of working your way up the ladder. And now that's kind of going away.
Yeah, well, it's interesting when you talk to folks at Citi, they also make the point that, it used to be a place where if you wanted time with someone, you had to like email them and get on their calendar. And a lot of the folks I talked to were like, that's no longer the case. You just drop by. It's very much more an open culture. We're collaborating way more. So even the people who are maybe a little sensitive about losing that private office, they seem to kind of be coming around to the cultural benefits.
Yeah, and Corbat right in the middle of it. You know,
he was the first to go.
Deck, yoga.
Yes, it's very well, and Citi's kind of unusual too with the banks. They have that Tribeca location, so they have views of both kind of that midtown west, and then also kind of downtown. One World Trade and everything. It's very pretty.
All right, no surprise, it's the most read story on the Bloomberg today. Jenny Serrain, finance reporter for Bloomberg, taking us inside the new Citi HQ. Well, coming up, we're going to get you to the close of trading here on a Monday afternoon. But first, let's get back down to Washington. Martin DeCaro is there for World and National Headlines. Hey, Martin.
Thanks, Jason. Former Vice President Joe Biden's name is coming up a lot at the House Judiciary Committee's impeachment hearing today. The panel's members are probing President Trump's demand for Ukraine to investigate Biden and his son, who joined the board of a Ukrainian gas company. Bloomberg's Irv Chapman reports live from Capitol Hill.
Martin, Republican Doug Collins recalled for Democratic lawyer Dan Goldman that Biden had a major role in Ukraine policy when he was vice president.
Joe Biden is the only one that's done a quid pro quo. He's the only one that's used taxpayer dollars to actually threaten a foreign government.
When Vice President Biden pressured the Ukrainian president to remove the corrupt prosecutor general, he was doing so as part of U.S. policy, part of the entire international community's consensus.
Collins said if international lenders approved what Biden was doing, it still constituted extortion, and President Trump did release his aid money. Martin?
Well, thank you, Irv. The ongoing war in eastern Ukraine is why President Volodymyr Zelensky is meeting face-to-face with Russia's Vladimir Putin today. It's a summit in Paris, their first in-person stab at brokering an end to the 5-year war. Michael Bozaque, a former spokesman for the Organization of Security and Cooperation in Europe, he says Zelensky faces difficult odds.
If he doesn't go home to Ukraine with some sort of win or victory, if he's seen as capitulating towards Russia, his political life could be very severely shortened. Already, there have been protests on the streets of Kiev warning him not to capitulate against Russia. So he's in a very, very difficult position.
The talks are being mediated by France and Germany. Global news 24 hours a day, on air and a quick take by Bloomberg, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Martin DeCaro. This is Bloomberg.
Asset managers who seize change to launch new strategies, add distribution channels, or exploit new technology to re-engineer the investor experience are often rewarded. However, in an industry paralyzed with complexity, few act with agility or decisively. Few run their businesses strategically, yet the most competitive managers in the market know with the right partner and a flexible operating system, you can. Go boldly toward change with SEI Investment Manager Services.
I'm Steve Meyer, president of SEI's Investment Manager Services. At SEI, we understand the emerging forces that will define success for asset managers and what firms will need to compete tomorrow. That's why we continually optimize SEI's global operating platform. If your business requires greater agility, our advanced technology, integrated best-in-class systems, and multi-asset expertise can be your catalyst for business transformation.
With SEI Investment Manager Services, you lead the charge in a competitive marketplace. Learn more at SEIC.com/seize change.
Business is constantly evolving. Is your financial printer evolving to keep ahead of the curve? At Command Financial, we are redefining financial printing by providing industry-leading expertise, leveraging technology, and honing processes and best practices. Every day, Command helps SEC registrants, as well as members of their working groups, including securities attorneys and investment bankers, prepare, file, and disseminate regulatory and disclosure documents, such as registration statements, M&A documents, and mutual fund prospectuses and reports. Command provides a full range of services to help you effectively complete your deal, meet your disclosure requirements, and achieve your shareholder communications objectives. Visit our website at commandfinancial.com and learn how we're evolving, not only with the times, but also with your business requirements. Command Financial, redefining financial printing.
What if you could keep...
This week at Tesco, buy 2 items from our chilled party food range, like tempura prawns or mozzarella sticks, and get a third one free. So for every 2 people you invite, you can ask another for free. But who? Linda from Accounts or Julio from Magaluf 2010? Tesco, delivering Christmas for 100 years. Cheapest item free, selected stores while stocks last, ends 1st of January.
What better way to celebrate the holidays than with a subscription to TuneIn Premium? With a bottomless library of the world's best audio, it's the gift that keeps on giving. Search Premium to upgrade today.
Some days life can get in the way of catching up on the news that moves your world. TuneIn is here to help. With live 24/7 coverage from CNN wherever you go on the TuneIn app, you can always find a slice of your schedule, however long, to check in on the biggest stories of the day.
Hell hath no fury. The president's counselor went on a rampage on a taped phone call with Washington Examiner reporter.
Search CNN on TuneIn to get the live news when it matters most.
When you're not listening to your team, take it to the end zone, the rim, or the net. Keep up with the biggest moments in sports by following TuneIn on social media.
Block, Cook into the end zone for the touchdown.
From reminders of the live top games to tips of the best sports stations and podcasts.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip Bayless.
Follow at TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
Hey, TuneIn listeners, Steve Kornacki here from NBC News. I want to tell you about a podcast I'm hosting called Article 2, Inside Impeachment. It's dedicated to bringing you the latest developments on the impeachment inquiry into President Trump. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I talk to NBC News reporters who are closest to the story to break down what's new, what matters, and what it means for the 2020 election. Search and favorite Article 2, Inside Impeachment on TuneIn.
Don't want to miss a second of your NFL team's next matchup? Let TuneIn remind you. Just make sure notifications are enabled on your phone and search for your team profile on the TuneIn app. Then, find the game you want under Events and tap Notify Me. We'll send you an alert as soon as live coverage begins.
Upgrade to TuneIn Premium and get over 45 commercial-free music stations. You'll also get live commercial-free news, plus live play-by-play games from NFL, MLB, NBA, and NHL. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
Ho, ho, ho! Make my job easier this year with a subscription to TuneIn Premium, featuring the world's largest selection of music, news, podcasts, and sports. It's a gift they'll enjoy every day, all year long. Ho, ho, ho! Happy holidays! Search Premium to upgrade today.
Far wing, elevates, triple bucket.
The roar of the crowd. The shot clock ticks down. Will the ball go in? The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. And the replays just don't cut it.
The sideline, the man bleeds for three.
TuneIn Premium brings you every minute of the NBA season streaming live, so you can be there when it matters most. Hear it now. Hear it live on TuneIn.
Fake in the lane, turnaround jumper from 8 feet is good on the
Search
right block.
NBA today to start listening.
And breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
With roughly 13 minutes left in today's session, we're seeing weakness in the equity market. Light volume with trading in the S&P about 20% below the 30-day average. In the S&P 500 right now, we're seeing weakness in some of the healthcare stocks, also moving to the downside, many in the information tech space, along with some utilities. S&P 500 weaker by about 0.3%. Now, the week ahead is brimming with potential catalysts, including two central bank meetings, one from the Fed, the other from the ECB. And then there's this looming deadline in the U.S.-China trade war and the question of whether the U.S. is going to, on Sunday, go ahead with a planned tariff hike targeting $160 billion in Chinese goods. This would include toys and smartphones. Earlier today, White House economic advisor Larry Kudlow said the two sides are in nearly round-the-clock talks. And then Agriculture Secretary Sonny Perdue said the U.S. is unlikely to impose additional tariffs. Morgan Stanley is cutting about 1,500 jobs globally, including several managing directors. This would amount to roughly 2% of the firm's global workforce. Right now, Dow Industrial Average weaker by 0.3%. Similar decline for the NASDAQ Composite and the U.S. 10-year Treasury with a yield of 1.83%. I'm Doug Krisner. That is the Bloomberg Business Flash.
I'm driving in my car. I turn on the radio.
How about you let me drive?
Oh, no. Who's gonna drive you home?
Honey, please, I'll do the driving.
Drive on.
Excuse me, I want to drive.
Just drive, baby.
That funky music will drive us till the dawn.
On Bloomberg Radio.
All right, and it is time for the drive to the close. Kirk Hartman here with us, President and Global Chief Investment Officer for Wells Fargo Asset Management. They're looking after, I should say, $495 billion. That's almost $500 billion. Joins us on the phone from Los Angeles. All right, Kirk, so a busy day, it feels like, on the market today. From a headline perspective, lighter volume, as our Doug Krisner has been reminding us. But what is the market most concerned about on a week where it feels like we're going to be very trade-driven?
Well, I think this market wants to go up. I mean, the economy is very strong, and things look very positive. To your point, there's a lot of geopolitical headwinds. You know, you've got the Brexit vote coming up. You've got the potential tariff deadline on December 15th. You've got the Fed meeting. You've got the ECB meeting. So a lot of people are waiting to see what happens there. So, you know, it'll be interesting to see. But to your point, I think today is just very calm.
So it's interesting, too, that you say the more, just sending it, look at some of the notes you sent over, the more the U.S. equity markets go up now, the less that they can go up next year. Is that just based on we've had such a run up? But I mean, most folks would say, what is it, over the last year or 2 years? We really haven't moved that much.
Well, if you think about earnings per share and multiples, this year earnings were good but not great in the 166, 167 per share for the S&P. Next year is projected to go to 175. You put a multiple on that and we're pretty close to being there. So my point is, I think the market is priced for a very good outcome and has discounted a lot of the earnings expectations for next year. Which I think is not a bad assumption. I think the question is, given a market, especially the S&P up 25% and the bond market up 10%, you know, how much more can we go? It's obviously, you know, a great condition.
And so, Kirk, what do you worry the most about then? You know, this time last year, we sort of didn't know what was about to hit us come the holidays with all of that volatility. And this Fed meeting, you know, was the meeting that sort of set it all off in many ways. Is the Fed a concern? Is trade, as you know, you mentioned, we talked about geopolitical elements out there as well. What's the thing you're worried most about?
Well, I think the thing that I'm most concerned about is leverage in the system, and I don't think people are talking about that enough. There's a lot of leverage in the system, a lot of debt. Everyone knows that the central banks are spending a lot of money and stimulating the economy, but you wonder at some point, when does that end? It's a great time to borrow. Coverage ratios are very good because rates are low, but if rates start to go up, leverage ratios and coverage ratios and those kind of things can turn around. So far, so good. Leverage is your friend when it's your friend, but the other way, it can hurt you.
So, okay, so let's think about next year then. How would you position yourself to kind of get ready for the environment that we may have in 2020 based on your assumptions?
Well, I think you want to have 1 foot in, 1 foot out, meaning I think you want to be in the equity markets, but you can see from my notes I'm leaning more towards dividend yield. I'm leaning more to the financials. Arguably, small caps may be a bit behind. I think and we'll catch up, I think, and they are. I think in the bond market, you've got to be very careful here about interest rates and duration risks, so I think you have to stay short. So I would put it this way. You want to be positive, but you want to be careful.
Still feel pretty good about the consumer as we head into the holidays?
The consumer's in good shape. And again, I think a lot of that is, good confidence levels and, again, a continuation of the low rate environment. So that's helping everyone. And the U.S. consumer just continues to power along here. And, again, you just have to wonder how long that can continue. But it's gone on for a long time.
I do wonder, too, Kirk, how politics plays into all of this. Of course, next year, is an election year, presidential election year, and we do certainly have an administration, specifically a president who watches the financial markets, no doubt about it. And I do wonder whether you think about how that might impact what we get next year in terms of a trading environment.
Well, I think next year is going to be a very rough year politically. Obviously, you have a lot of disagreements in terms of the direction of policy and the economy. So we'll see how it plays out. But I think what you can conclude from it is probably not a lot gets done next year in terms of legislation. And I think the market thinks that as long as the trade war kind of bumps along, there's some kind of phase one deal. And as long as there's not any big geopolitical shock, like a really bad outcome of Brexit or anything like that, or a Middle East flare-up, that I think the market thinks things will be okay.
All right, we're going to leave it there. Kirk Hartman is President and Global Chief Investment Officer of Wells Fargo Asset Management. They look after about $495 billion. He joined us on the phone from Los Angeles. And Carol, as we take a look at what the market is doing, I mean, it's sort of hovered right around this level, actually taking a little bit of a leg down since we came on the air. I would say this is a market, it's not overly worried, but it's not thrilled.
No, but on a percentage basis, we're down about 1/3 of 1% on both the Dow and the Nasdaq, down about 1/4% on the S&P. And considering the run-up we've had here in 2019, it's just a little bit of a breather, especially when you've got so many big issues this week, whether it's the Fed meeting, whether it's the European Central Bank meeting, the UK elections, which what that portends for Brexit, the WTO that we're talking about with Andy Brown. I mean, there's just a lot of big issues, and I think investors would love a little bit more clarity. And we're also at this interesting time once again between kind of earnings season. So we're watching what the consumer's doing to kind of get indications about the health of the overall economy. And I do wonder to what Kirk Hartman, who we're just talking to at Wells Fargo Asset Management, we've had quite a run up. So a little bit of a breather is understandable.
Well, and you do wonder, what does the holiday season look like? How do people feel going into the end of this year and into 2020, which already has some signs of volatility of all stripes coming at us, totally. That's for sure. And as you say, trade looming out there for sure over the next week or so, certainly as we get closer and closer to Christmas. You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week right here on Bloomberg Radio. Jason Kelly, Carol Masser. This is Business Week.
Coffee or food?
Leave a mince pie out for Santa this Christmas and you might find the whole pack disappears. At Asda, our extra special luxury mince pies are just £1.39 and our extra special slow gin mince pies are only £2. Well, Santa might like to try something different. Asda, let's make Christmas extra special. Selected stores subject to availability. 6 pies per pack.
This week at Tesco, buy 2 items from our chilled party food range, like tempura prawns or mozzarella sticks, and get a third one free. So for every 2 people you invite, you can ask another for free. But who? Linda from Accounts or Julio from Magaluf 2010. Tesco, delivering Christmas for 100 years. Cheapest item free, selected stores while stocks last, ends 1st of January.
What better way to celebrate the holidays than with a subscription to TuneIn Premium? With a bottomless library of the world's best audio, it's the gift that keeps on giving. Search Premium to upgrade today.
When you're not listening to your team, take it to the end zone, the rim, or the net. Keep up with the biggest moments in sports by following TuneIn on social media.
Block, Cook into the end zone for the touchdown.
From reminders of the live top games to tips of the best sports stations and podcasts.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip Bayless.
Follow at TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
Ah, finally another commercial, said no one ever. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade now and get over 45 commercial-free music stations.
From ESPN and the award-winning producers of The Sterling Affairs comes the latest season of 30 for 30 podcasts. 4 brand new stories of espionage.
He wanted this team to be the Barcelona of women's basketball.
Resilience.
I started to scream. I tried to get away.
Corruption.
It's the culture of win at all costs.
And rebirth.
How will we ever rebuild it?
30 for 30 Podcasts, Season 6. Listen now to 30 for 30 Podcasts on TuneIn.
Hey, NFL fan, can't watch the game? Can't be there? No biggie. With your TuneIn Premium membership, you already have an all-access pass to every team and every game in the league. Amazing, right?
Steps up, floats it towards, at the goal line, it's intercepted!
Listen live as the action unfolds or on demand when you can. Anytime, anywhere, all season long.
Right side, it is caught. It is in for the right side for the touchdown to Keenan.
Search NFL today.
Introducing a new podcast, ESPN Daily. When you want to go beyond your feed, when you want to get inside the score, when you want to get behind the highlight, there's ESPN Daily. Go deeper into the stories of the moment. Get the exclusive access and insider perspective that only ESPN can give you. ESPN Daily, hosted by me, Mina Kimes. Listen now to ESPN Daily on TuneIn.
24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, on the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is Bloomberg Radio. Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Indeed, 4 p.m. on Wall Street, which means today's trading has now ended, at least in the regular session, and looks like equities will be down for the day in very light volume. Trading in the S&P 500 roughly 20% below the 30-day average. The S&P giving back about 0.3% on the day. Healthcare names leading this decline. There was also weakness today in information technology. And some of the utility stocks were down as well. On the positive side, we had consumer staples, real estate, and consumer discretionary shares advancing. Now, although today was, for all intents and purposes, quiet, the week ahead is brimming with potential catalyst. We have two central bank meetings, one from the Fed, the other the ECB, and the looming deadline in the U.S.-China trade war and the question of whether the U.S. will on Sunday go ahead with a planned increase in tariffs targeting $160 billion worth of Chinese goods. This would include toys and smartphones. Earlier today, White House economic advisor Larry Kudlow said the two sides are in nearly around-the-clock talks, and Agriculture Secretary Sonny Perdue said the U.S. is unlikely to impose extra tariffs. Nonetheless, Dow Industrial Average falling about 0.4%. Similar decline today for the NASDAQ Composite. Elsewhere on the issue of trade, we are told the Trump administration and House Democrats have a tentative deal on the new NAFTA. This would be the U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreement known as the USMCA. Morgan Stanley is cutting about 1,500 jobs globally. This would include managing directors, part of a year-end efficiency push. We are told these cuts are skewed toward technology and operations divisions. Apple may cut production of its high-end phones, the 11 Pro and 11 Pro Max. Rosenblatt Securities says sales in the month of November have been weak, and as a result, Rosenblatt expecting Apple may reduce production by about 25% on these higher-end models. Today, Apple shares down 1.3%. That's the Bloomberg Business Flash.
Your next move will be your last.
Nobody move a muscle.
Damn, Stippy, you got some moves. And I'm moving from town to town.
Time is money. Let's go. Come on, move it.
Shake it up. Shake it up.
Bloomberg Business Week, Movers and Shakers, with Carol Masser and Jason Kelly on Bloomberg Radio.
All right, everyone. Time to take a look at some of the movers and shakers for the Monday trade. Carol Master along with Jason Kelly in our Bloomberg Interactive Broker studio. And big picture, 206 names in the S&P 500 higher today, 295 lower, 4 unchanged. And what's interesting, in an overwhelmingly, kind of a split trade, but a little bit more of a bearish tone, and those major equity averages lower today. But I looked at some of the retailers. Nordstrom's your second best gainer in the S&P, up 3.6%. Kohl's is up 3.3%. And even Macy's, which is interesting, Goldman moves to sell on weak retail operations. Macy's is up 2.2% today.
Yeah, I was really taken by those retail names,
right?
Especially Kohl's, which is, your third biggest gainer? In the S&P?
3.3% today.
Kind of amazing that people getting excited about retail again.
I'm trying to figure out, too, I'm looking for some kind of catalyst today, and I'm not necessarily seeing anything. I was looking for, mall traffic numbers over the weekend because of the holidays, but not necessarily seeing much. Let's see, U.S. mall foot traffic rose 0.1%. That's the latest 4-week period from a year earlier, so just up a hair. This is coming out from one of the groups that tracks that. I don't know.
Right.
Interesting.
All right. We haven't talked about it yet, and we have to because you and I were texting about it. Peloton.
Let's talk about it.
It's up 6.5% today. It's not quite up to its all-time high, but it's closed at $34.77. That ad, then the spoof ad.
Okay, if you have not seen the second ad, first of all, the initial Peloton ad, they rolled it out for the holidays. It has become quite a thing in social media.
Highly controversial.
Highly controversial, feeling like it's setting back women, 100 years. And kind of let's help this woman get out of there,
But hat tip to Ryan Reynolds.
Yes.
He's got a gin brand. He got the actress. They taped
That's in the Peloton ad, right?
That's in the Peloton ad. And they filmed an ad very quickly for this gin, and it's 3 women, including this woman, at a bar, and you just got to watch.
Well, it's like 2 friends trying to help her out. The woman that they feel like, oh my God, she's in this bad marriage where her husband gives her Peloton, and she's got to lose 2 ounces, and then she's looks
chugging
better.
martinis.
She's chugging martinis. If you have not seen it, you should definitely check it out.
But I mean, this seems to be evidence. If you look at the stock, that maybe it's better to be talked about even poorly rather than not at all. So,
yeah,
in any case,
exactly.
Anything else catching your attention?
Ulta, there it is. Your 4th biggest decliner in the S&P 500, down 3.6%. Not necessarily seeing any news, but we do know that this stock is usually among our best performers or worst performers of the day. And I'm just looking again for any kind of news.
Well, when you have one analyst saying they're making the best of a bad situation,
Loop Capital, that's Gene Munster's firm.
That
right?
is probably not. Actually, I think it's a different Loop Capital.
Oh, is it?
Actually, yeah. This is LOOP. I believe his is LOUP.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, that's for
just
clarification.
Trying to keep you honest.
Dave Wilson's like, yeah, come on, Masser, get with it. But anyway, Ulta is always among our movers. So, yeah.
All right, let's get a quick check on volatility. Yeah, volatility up quite a bit today, up about 18%, closing at 16.04. This is Bloomberg.
All right, Dave, you're up.
Jesus.
Hi, my name is Dave.
Wilson, where are you? Wilson!
Just what do you think you're doing, Dave?
We're going for the price on Wilson.
Open up the door. It's Dave. Who? Dave.
Hey, Mr. Wilson. Dave Wilson back with us in our Bloomberg Interactive Broker Studio, keeping us honest. What's happening?
Keeping me honest.
I do what I can.
You do, and you do it really well.
He's a good neighbor. He sits right near us in the newsroom.
I have a question.
Very wise.
Let's go to Dave. What's your stock of the day? Ticker is TVTY.
Tivity Health.
TVTY. Say that 5 times fast.
I said TVTY. I was like, is that a new letter?
Well, how about, the South Beach Diet? You heard of that?
Yes.
Heard of it?
There's a gym membership program called Prime Fitness, meal delivery service called Wisely Well, all of them owned by Tivity, which refers to itself as an owner of healthy lifestyle brands. Now, Tivity started in 1981 as American Healthways and went public in 1991. The current name and ticker, TVTY, were adopted in 2017. Now, Tivity's shares peaked in January 2008 and plummeted as much as 93% within 12 months. After recouping most of that loss, they took another tumble in the past 2 years or so. One reason for the retreat was Tivity's agreement to buy the weight loss company Nutrisystem. There you go, another familiar name. The $1.3 billion purchase was completed in March, and Nutrisystem CEO Dawn Zier stayed on as Tivity's chief operating officer. Now, Zier ran Nutrisystem for more than 6 years. Trouble is, she lasted at the new owner for less than 9 months. Tivity disclosed today that she was terminated this past Wednesday. While the company said her departure wasn't for cause, It didn't give a reason. Now, in response, Tivity shares suffered their biggest loss since May. They dropped more than 10.5%.
And this is a stock that has got a pretty big short position on it. Over 39% of the float is being shorted. So
it's a good day for the short sellers. Not so good for the stockholders, though.
Exactly.
All right, good name, Dave Wilson. Thank you so much. We'll see you tomorrow for your check on the markets, your chart, and your stock. Coming up, we're going to check in with Bill Smead, old friend of the show.
Yeah.
He's going to keep us honest on what's happening in the markets. Obviously, as we've been talking about, a little more volatility today, a market, trying to figure out what it needs to do till the end of the year.
And just a reminder, those major equity averages did finish pretty much at their lows of the session. Headline crossing, we talked about those Morgan Stanley job cuts. They said to face a $150 million to $200 million charge tied to those job cuts. So we're getting some numbers as a result of cutting 2% of its workforce, what it means in terms of cost to the company. Quick check on the stock here in the after hours, and it is unchanged.
All right, let's get down to Washington. Martin DeCaro's got your world and national headlines. Hey, Martin.
Thank you, Jason. We're 7 hours into House impeachment hearings today. Republicans are focusing not on President Trump's alleged misconduct, but on his potential 2020 White House rival, Democrat Joe Biden. Let's get details in this live report from Bloomberg's Irv Chapman covering the House Judiciary Committee.
Martin, Congressman Steve Chabot is one of the Republicans who spotlighted Biden's political liability.
Isn't it true that Joe Biden's son, Hunter, had placed himself right smack dab in the middle of that corruption? Yes, he did. The concerns about Hunter Biden's involvement in Ukrainian corruption, they're not some sort of vast right-wing conspiracy concocted by supporters of the president, are they? In fact, the concerns about Hunter Biden were first raised by the Obama administration. Is that right? That's right.
Democrats underscored that Biden, when he carried out U.S. policy as vice president, fought corruption in Ukraine, and his son was an unrelated issue. Martin?
Thanks, Irv. The Justice Department's internal watchdog is harshly criticizing the FBI's handling of a wiretap application. It's a 400-page report on the origins of the investigation of the Trump campaign's connections to Russia in 2016. In an interview with ABC News, FBI Director Christopher Wray says the problems identified are unacceptable.
I would say the Inspector General clearly found omissions and inaccuracies in those applications, and that's below the standard that I expect of our employees.
There were mistakes in applications for court orders approving a wiretap on Carter Page, a former Trump campaign aide. Global news 24 hours a day on air in a quick take by Bloomberg, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Martin DeCaro. This is Bloomberg.
You can't be the only one who spends time examining angles,
This sort of mini deal, what would it look like?
considering possibilities,
From a credit perspective, this is good news.
planning for eventualities.
This company really has to get back on a growth track.
You're right. The others are here.
General Electric is such an interesting story.
Bloomberg Markets with Lisa Abramowitz and Paul Sweeney. Weekday mornings at 10 Eastern on Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
Okay, kids, Dad's gonna teach you how to dance. First, spread your feet apart. Then, pump your knee, nod your head, shake your hips, and bite your lip ever so slightly. Now, with one hand in the air, point at people with the other hand. I call that the rock star.
Dance like a dad. It's a great way to make a moment with your kids.
Now, make a face like it just smells something bad.
Visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Are you interested in a challenging and exciting career? One where you can be part of solving complex challenges across industries and geographies. Bloomberg's ever-expanding technology, data, news, and media services foster innovation, empower clients, and offer nearly limitless opportunities for career growth. Visit Bloomberg.com/careers today to view our current job opportunities. Bloomberg LP is an equal opportunity employer. The address once again is Bloomberg.com/careers.
The average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds, and most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes belonged to Yasmin, who was
living in a shelter, juggling 3 jobs. I had to be resilient.
That's something that you can't teach.
We rely so much on a resume, yet it could never tell the full story of someone who
Had to be independent and take initiative, and that's how I handle every project I get.
Discover new ways to develop great talent at gradsoflife.org. Brought to you by Grads of Life and the Ad Council.
In-depth analysis, concise.
Sometimes in business, you have to take risks, but trading across borders and currencies shouldn't be one of them. With Western Union Business Solutions, we can help you manage the risk of doing business internationally. Our valuable experience, expert knowledge, and extensive global network makes us the ideal trusted partner for your business. And with our customer-focused support team, you'll receive a dedicated solution and personalized service. Visit westernunionbusiness.com. Western Union Business Solutions, a global financial network you can trust.
Upgrade to TuneIn Premium and get over 45 commercial-free music stations. You'll also get live commercial-free news, plus live play-by-play games from NFL, MLB, NBA, and NHL. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
When you're not listening to your team, take it to the end zone, the rim, or the net. Keep up with the biggest moments in sports by following TuneIn on social media.
Block, Cook into the end zone for the touchdown.
From reminders of the live top games to tips of the best sports stations and podcasts.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip Bayless.
Follow and TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
To LeBron, slam dunk.
The NBA is on TuneIn Premium. Each week, TuneIn picks an NBA game you just can't miss. The Miami Heat are taking their talents to Texas to take on the second-year phenom, Luka Doncic, and the Dallas Mavericks.
Back trying to make it 11-2.
This Saturday, the Miami Heat are at the Dallas Mavericks. Tip-off is at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Search NBA on TuneIn to follow your favorite NBA team today.
Cutting for the net, scores! On the goal line, Marshawn scores!
Hockey fans, the 2019-20 NHL season is here.
And tucks it home!
And with this team, it's really fun to be a part of a team like that.
And you can hear the action live on TuneIn Premium. From regular season action to the All-Star Game and through the Stanley Cup in June. Hear the home and away call for every game, for every team live. At home or on the go, never miss a game with the NHL on TuneIn Premium.
Upgrade today.
Hey, tune in listeners. Steve Kornacki here from NBC News. I want to tell you about a podcast I'm hosting called Article 2, Inside Impeachment. It's dedicated to bringing you the latest developments on the impeachment inquiry into President Trump. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I talk to NBC News reporters who are closest to the story to break down what's new, what matters, and what it means for the 2020 election. Search and favorite Article 2, Inside Impeachment on TuneIn.
This is the TuneIn Newsreel with top news stories from today.
Netflix got the most Golden Globe nominations this morning. 3 of the top 5 movies are from Netflix: The Irishman, The Two Popes, and Marriage Story. Apple got 3 nominations for its streaming series, The Morning Show. People are selling stock at the fastest pace in years, shifting hundreds of billions of dollars into bonds and money market funds, which are seen as safer places for their money, and out-of-stock mutual funds and exchange-traded funds. The Wall Street Journal says this year so far has seen the biggest withdrawals on record, citing Refinitiv Lipper, which has data going back almost 30 years. The SunTrust Bank and BB&T Bank merger is done. The new company will be called Truist Financial Corporation. The ticker symbol is TFC on the New York Stock Exchange this morning. It's now the 6th largest commercial bank in the U.S.
Hear breaking news as it happens with live around-the-clock coverage from Fox News on TuneIn.
News 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
It was a down day for the equity market. Trading was light, and we had in the S&P 500 volume about 20% below the 30-day average. So for today's session, the absent really of any market-moving news, although the week ahead does feature a couple of potential catalysts. We've got 2 central bank meetings, one the Fed, the other the ECB, and then, of course, the looming deadline in the U.S.-China trade war of Sunday. and the question of whether the U.S. will go ahead with a planned increase in tariffs targeting $160 billion worth of Chinese goods. This would include toys and smartphones. Dow Industrial Average giving back 0.4% on the day. Similar decline for the NASDAQ Composite. In the broader market, we had the S&P falling about 0.3%. The decline here led by healthcare along with utility and information tech stocks. Morgan Stanley is cutting about 1,500 jobs globally. This will include several managing directors, and we are told that Morgan will now face a charge of between $150 million to $200 million tied to these job cuts. When it comes to the issue of trade away from U.S.-China, we are told the Trump administration and House Democrats have a tentative deal on the new NAFTA. This would be the USMCA. U.S. 10-year Treasury last quoted in New York at a yield of 1.82%. I'm Doug Krisner. That is the Bloomberg Business Flash.
Doug, thanks a lot. You are listening to Bloomberg Business Week right here on Bloomberg Radio.
All right, so we're going to talk about the lonely investors, because if you're a value investor, good luck with that one. The SMED Value Fund, by the way, though, has figured it out, beating most of its peers over the past 5 years, returning on average more than 9% annually. Let's get into things with Bill Smead back with us. He's CEO and Chief Investment Officer at Smead Capital Management, $2.2 billion in assets under management. Bill, joining us in our Bloomberg Interactive Brokers studio. How are you?
Well, thank you for having us.
Nice to have you here. It isn't easy being a value guy or finding opportunities, but you're finding them, or are you?
Yeah. An example, some wonderful things have kind of gone our way. One was Amazon announced they were going to the grocery store business back in 2017.
Yeah.
And Target went to a price equivalent to what its low was in 2009 when we thought we were going into a 5-year depression. And so that has been a great thing for us.
Target's up 91% this year.
Yeah.
And mind you, it got beat up. When did you guys get into it?
We started buying it in the low 50s in May, June, July of 2017.
It's 126 and change now.
Yeah.
Nice call. Do you still own it? Have you pared back? What are you doing?
We haven't touched a share.
Wow.
At the moment, it's probably the largest position in the portfolio just because of how much it's gone up.
And then a 2% dividend on top.
Yeah. In the last 15 years, 60% of the college graduates are women. Those college graduate women are becoming mothers. College graduate mothers that shop go to Target.
Yeah. I agree.
So we think we're in a real good spot there for about 10 years because kids are being born into above average income homes with grandparents that have waited a lot longer, and the spoilage is going to be legendary.
So what is it? You've been doing this for some time. I'm not going to age you too much, but what does this remind you of? I mean, this sort of period, in some ways it's unprecedented, the longest bull run in history. I get that. But, history doesn't necessarily repeat itself, but it rhymes, is the old saying. Right. What does this remind you of?
Well, the first thing is we're contrarians, so we're always asking, the last thing that anybody could think of, is it a possibility? So we viewed the current circumstances as very much the opposite of 1981. In 1981, no one owned an index fund because no one owned any common stocks, period. Household ownership of common stocks was 10 or 11% at the bottom. Treasury interest rates were 15% driven by baby boomer demand. And inflation was 11%. And Albert Wojnarauer and Henry Kaufman were Dr. Doom and Dr. Death, the most popular economists on Wall Street, and they said there's no end in sight to inflation. And here we are, the opposite. The ECB and the Federal Reserve say there's no end to this low inflation. Right. But I mentioned to my friend Tucker today, everything we buy seems to go up 5% every year. How can the inflation rate be 1.5 when everything we buy, every restaurant meal you just saw for your last piece, every subscription you have, every car that you buy? I mean, what doesn't go up 5% every year? Houses have gone up 5%. So I don't know where they're getting the stats, but there are going to be in excess of 90 million millennials that are between 30 and 45 who are going to have kids and demand the same things that the prior generations demanded when they form households. They'll do necessity spending, and when 40% more people do necessity spending, there should be some inflation associated with that activity.
So I look at the top holdings in your value fund, and so then you got NVR, homes, they have to buy homes. Target, we just got your story on that. American Express, they're going to be spending because you said
number
they've got
one
a lot
credit
more
card
money.
for millennials.
Or Discovery, Discovery's watching stuff, right?
HGTV.
Exactly. Home Depot, well, they've got to fix things in their house. Aflac, they've got to be insuring, right, things?
The houses are the oldest in the United States they've ever been, 45 years old on average. So regardless of whether you're buying an existing home or somebody's building one, it's very positive, but yet, Home Depot has been a rip-roaring stock the last couple of years, so I wouldn't be chasing it.
And then you got Disney in there. So when all is said and done, you got to take the kids to Disney.
And the millennials will borrow money, and we own J.P. Morgan, Bank of America, and Wells Fargo. And there's 90 million of them right now in a population of 330 million. Therefore, when they become liability customers, it'd just be a lot easier to be a bank because that's the most profitable thing a bank does.
So they're going to do everything that we've done or our parents have done, right?
Just
but maybe on
7 years later.
A little bit later.
Yeah.
All right. Anything, 30 seconds left. What worries you the most about that cohort, though?
About that cohort?
Yeah.
It just that this whole growth episode will go for another 5 years.
Yeah, right.
We don't have our tail between our legs because we've done well, but it'd be nice to have the wind at your back once in a great while.
Yeah, just for a little while,
hold your
right?
breath.
Yeah, exactly. Bill Smead, great to have you here with us in New York City, CEO and Chief Investment Officer of Smead Capital Management, based on the other side of the country in Seattle. Feels like Seattle today in New York City.
Coming up, we were just talking about Dr. Doom and Dr. Evil, I think, or what was it? Dr. Death. When we did have inflation levels at crazy levels, Paul Volcker had to rein things in and doing an unpopular move of raising rates. Of course, a sad weekend with news of his passing. We're going to talk a little bit more about it with Christine Harper. This is Bloomberg.
This is a Bloomberg Market Minute. Investors toyed with staying closer to the flat line, but in the final moments of trading, they took a stronger swing lower. The Dow fell 105, the Nasdaq 35, the S&P 10. Trade jitters prompting the pullback of about 1/3 to 0.4%, with investors watching the calendar and seeing the December 15th deadline for new tariffs on Chinese goods approaching quickly. Morgan Stanley is cutting about 2% of its workforce. That amounts to about 1,500 jobs around the world. That part of a year-end efficiency push. Most of the cuts involve tech and operations. Executives in sales, trading, and research and operations are also affected. Apple may be seeing its iPhone 11 cut into the sales of its higher-end models. Rosenblatt Securities says November sales of the iPhone 11 Pro and Max models were weak, while iPhone 11 sales themselves were stable, and that Apple may cut production of the higher-end models by 1/4 over this quarter and next. I'm Joan Doniger, Bloomberg Radio.
Sweet strawberry icing. You're in Goodwill, and just past that vintage denim jacket you spot miniature donut earrings. You lean in. That's the scent of shopping success. Because at Goodwill, every item you buy funds local job training and more. So bring home those donut earrings and bring home so much good to your community. Goodwill. Bring good home. Brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Are you interested in a challenging and exciting career? One where you can be part of solving complex challenges across industries and geographies? Bloomberg's ever-expanding technology, data, news, and media services foster innovation, empower clients, and offer nearly limitless opportunities for career growth. Visit Bloomberg.com/careers today to view our current job opportunities. Bloomberg LP is an equal opportunity employer. The address once again is Bloomberg.com/careers. In-depth analysis,
Sometimes in business, you have to take risks, but trading across borders and currencies shouldn't be one of them. With Western Union Business Solutions, we can help you manage the risk of doing business internationally. Our valuable experience, expert knowledge, and extensive global network makes us the ideal trusted partner for your business. And with our customer-focused support team, you'll receive a dedicated solution and personalized service. Visit westernunionbusiness.com. Western Union Business Solutions, a global financial network you can trust.
This is the TuneIn Newsreel with top news stories from today.
On Wall Street, stocks jumping after the government reported employers added far more jobs than expected in November. 266,000 positions. Estimates were for around 180,000. The unemployment rate ticked down to 3.5%. That's a 50-year low. Some podcast creators coming into a pot of money. The creators of My Favorite Murder, a popular true crime podcast, signing a deal worth at least $10 million with EW Scripts, according to the Wall Street Journal. The deal is one of the largest ever of its kind. And if you're wondering where your Amazon package is, well, it may be late. Just a week into the holiday shopping season, Amazon is already having trouble getting packages to shoppers. The company saying delays are due to bad weather in parts of the country and the large number of orders it received during Black Friday and Cyber Monday. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Lillian Wu, invested in you.
Hear breaking news as it happens with live around-the-clock coverage from Fox News on TuneIn.
When you're not listening to your team, take it to the end zone, the rim, or the net. Keep up with the biggest moments in sports by following TuneIn on social media.
Block, Cook into the end zone for the touchdown.
From reminders of the live top games to tips of the best sports stations and podcasts.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip Bayless.
Follow and tune in on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
To LeBron, slam dunk.
The NBA is on TuneIn Premium. Each week, TuneIn picks an NBA game you just can't miss. The Miami Heat are taking their talents to Texas to take on the second-year phenom, Luka Doncic, and the Dallas Mavericks.
Pulls back, trying to make it 11-2.
This Saturday, the Miami Heat are at the Dallas Mavericks. Tip-off is at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Search NBA on TuneIn to follow your favorite NBA team today.
Calling for the snap. He finally gets it. Throws a pass. Back in the end zone. Leaping one-hand catch. Touchdown.
Tonight, TuneIn has your Monday night NFL football with the New York Giants at the Philadelphia Eagles. Kickoff at 8:15 p.m. Eastern.
Got a block at the 10. Inside the number 5. Breaks a tackle. Into the end zone. Touchdown.
At home or on the go, hear the home and away call of every NFL game this season on TuneIn Premium.
Receiver in motion. Handoff goes to the running back. Touchdown Carson. Easily.
Upgrade today. Hey, NFL fan, can't watch the game? Can't be there? No biggie. With your TuneIn Premium membership, you already have an all-access pass to every team and every game in the league. Amazing, right?
Steps up, floats it towards, at the goal line, it's intercepted.
Listen live as the action unfolds or on demand when you can. Anytime, anywhere, all season long.
Right side, it is caught. It is in for the right side for the touchdown.
Search NFL today.
Start hearing more of what you want.
Upgrade to TuneIn Premium and get over 45 commercial-free music stations, live commercial-free news, and every live NFL, MLB, NBA, and NHL game. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
Broadcasting live from the Bloomberg Interactive Brokers Studio in New York. Bloomberg 1130 to Washington, D.C. Bloomberg 99.1 to Boston. Bloomberg 106.1 to San Francisco. Bloomberg 960 to the country. Sirius XM Channel 119 and around the globe. The Bloomberg Business app and BloombergRadio.com. This is Bloomberg Business Week.
Well, coming up, we're going to bring you a different look at Paul Volcker, incredibly influential. This is an intimate portrait in a lot of ways. Christine Harper's going to be here, his co-author. We'll get to that in just a minute.
First up, let's get back to your top business headlines. Let's turn things over once again to Doug Krisner.
Hey, Carol, we're just getting word now via the Bloomberg terminal, some headlines crossing on the French drug maker Sanofi. The company is reorganizing now around 3 business units, and they are going to discontinue research in the areas of both diabetes and cardiovascular diseases. And on top of that, Sanofi may sell its stake in Regeneron after a lockup period expires. Now, during the session in Paris, Sanofi was down 2%. Now, in terms of the U.S. equity trade, we were down, but it was light volume. An absence today of any market-moving news. However, in the week ahead, we have a couple of potential catalysts. Two very important central bank meetings, one from the Fed, the other the ECB, and then, of course, the looming deadline of Sunday in the U.S.-China trade war and the question of whether the U.S. will go ahead with a planned increase in tariffs targeting $160 billion worth of Chinese goods. Earlier today, White House economic advisor Larry Kudlow said the two sides are in nearly round-the-clock talks. And then Agriculture Secretary Sonny Perdue said the U.S. is unlikely to impose additional tariffs. S&P 500 down about 0.3% on the day. Volume about 20% below the 30-day average. Dow weaker by 0.4%. Similar decline for the NASDAQ Composite. I'm Doug Krisner, and that is the Bloomberg Business Flash.
Doug, thanks a lot. You are listening to Bloomberg Business Week. Well, not surprisingly, one of the most watched stories today is the passing of Paul Volcker, dying at the age of 92, a life that cannot be quickly summarized at all. But someone who spent an incredible amount of time and very intimate time in a lot of ways, nothing more intimate in some ways than writing someone's book with them. Christine Harper, the editor of Bloomberg Markets Magazine. She is here with us in our Bloomberg Interactive Broker studio. First of all, so sorry to hear about Paul, given how close you were. But you have a tremendous tribute on the Bloomberg today that really explains him in a way that I had never seen. Tell us about it.
Well, I just tried to put down a little bit. I had this, unique opportunity when I was called 2.5 years ago to come and help Paul Volcker write his memoir, to really just get to spend a lot of time with him. And when I first went to meet him, I was pretty nervous because he's a formidable figure, and I didn't know how he would respond to me. And he couldn't have been more gracious and kind, and just took me in, treated me like a member of his family. Just wonderfully warm, funny, brilliant man, and we had this wonderful partnership that meant a lot to me. And so working on the book, obviously, we recounted all of his great achievements, and throughout the process of writing it, really recognized how many of the issues he was dealing with throughout his career are still around, issues of Fed independence, or sort of the value of the dollar and what it should be linked to, and accounting scandals, various financial regulation issues. But just the kind of person he was is what I wanted to try to convey in this piece I wrote today, because that doesn't always come out.
I love the part where you say what really stood out too is how he treated other people, and I feel like we've gotten away, I don't know, from that, but that was a big sign of his character.
Yeah, I mean, I point out in the article, sort of to begin with, that he was the kind of guy who on the same day would get a call from Ray Dalio, a billionaire hedge fund manager, huge fan of Paul Volcker's, inviting him out, to the ballet. And that same day, Volcker was going with his wife to his barber's wake out in Brooklyn, because he really treated everybody equal. He really cared about people from all walks of life. He loved to take the bus to and from his office because you could get, sometimes run into people. And he didn't kind of shield himself from the public in the way that some, really legendary people do.
Right.
He's a man of the people. He was a public servant.
Was he critical of other people, Christine, that were so removed from the public?
No, one of the things that was sort of extraordinary to me is how slow he was to criticize people. I would expect sometimes for him to have real rage at something, and he often wouldn't, because he'd been in so many positions where he was criticized that I think he had a great compassion for people who are in the public eye. Yeah. The only time I saw him really angry was when he saw, kind of examples of egregious greed, the sort of lobbying that he felt was, successfully undermining the public good in Washington, and just corruption in general. People who weren't in their kind of roles as public servants for the right reasons, and people who denigrated government, because he, following in the footsteps of his father, really believed that government was a noble calling, and he devoted his life to trying to make sure it was seen that way.
Well, and I love, one of the details you have is this note, I guess, that his mom sent him. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, so he had it framed. He had a lot of amazing things on his walls, as you might expect with somebody like him, but he always had in his office and then later in his home this framed copy of a letter that his mother had sent to her mother, so Paul's grandmother, just a couple weeks after the great stock market crash in 1929. And his mother, which this is about 2 years after Paul Volcker was born, so she had this 2-year-old kid and a bunch of other little kids around, was explaining that she, on her views of the stock market was that, it had been overvalued and it was due to come down, but that, in the end it would be okay, but that, anybody who was greedy and bet everything they needed, was going to suffer from it. And it struck me that this letter, the common sense inherent in it, what was something you also saw in Paul. And then when you sort of look at something like the Volcker Rule with its basically sort of prescription against gambling with money that, the taxpayers are backing, it sort of stems from that sort of simple common sense, just don't gamble with money you need.
Yeah.
Well,
and you point out so well and so beautifully sort of how he was, truly a product of both of his parents in many ways, sort of that public service and then that common sense that, over so many decades just really defined who he was. And when you think about people and their legacies after they leave, official office, what an unbelievable legacy. And we're so grateful to you, Christine, for writing this. Not surprisingly, as I mentioned, it's one of the most read stories on the Bloomberg today. It's required reading, I think, for anyone, as is the book that you wrote with Paul Volcker just last year.
Yeah, thanks. I just hope that we in this country and all around the world can produce more people like him because the world really needs him.
Absolutely. Christine Harper, editor of Bloomberg Markets Magazine, thank you so much, as always. Well, we are headed out shortly.
We are too, downtown to the Bloomberg 50 dinner and honorees on the Bloomberg 50 list, and we'll be actually doing a live broadcast from 6 to 7 p.m. Wall Street time and talking to some of the folks on that list from a variety of industries. So looking forward to that.
But first, let's get down to Washington. Martin DeCaro is there for World and National Headlines. Hey, Martin.
Thank you, Jason. As the House Judiciary Committee reviews the evidence provided by 17 witnesses and summarized today by committee lawyers on both sides of the partisan divide, Democrats say the case has been made for impeachment. Bloomberg's Irv Chapman reports live from Capitol Hill.
Martin, Democrat Ted Deutsch summed up his view of the president's culpability.
This isn't a close call. We had a Ukrainian president at war with Russia, desperate for a White House meeting. The president promised a White House meeting, but then he blocked the Oval Office. He blocked it and said, I need a favor, not a favor to help America, a favor to help me get reelected.
Republicans remained in President Trump's corner, stating there was no pressure on Ukrainian leaders to do the president the favor of investigating his potential rival and no impeachable offense. Martin.
Thank you, Irv. That hearing began at 9. It's ongoing now. The Justice Department's internal watchdog found the FBI was justified in opening its investigation into ties between the Trump presidential campaign and Russia in 2016. The 400-plus page report debunked right-wing conspiracy theories about the origins of the probe, but found serious performance failures up the Bureau's chain of command and 17 significant mistakes in warrant applications to monitor Carter Page, a one-time Trump campaign aide. Sources tell Bloomberg the Trump administration and House Democrats have a tentative deal on a U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreement, the USMCA, that paves the way for congressional approval as early as this month. Global news 24 hours a day on air and a quick take by Bloomberg, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Martin DeCaro. This is Bloomberg.
Why is delivering the best client experience a top priority at BNY Mellon's Pershing? Michelle Feinstein, Director of Client Engagement, explains.
Today's investors want a financial relationship that's on demand, customized, and leverages the latest digital technology. At BNY Mellon's Pershing, helping advisory firms and broker-dealers create great experiences for their clients is our priority. Through our integrated wealth experience, we give you a high-touch service, flexible technology choices, and expert insights, so you can deliver a highly personalized experience to your clients at every step, from onboarding to wealth planning, to performance analysis and more. And because we're part of BNY Mellon, you'll benefit from more than 230 years of strength and stability. At Pershing, we're personally invested in your success.
Visit Pershing.com to learn more about Pershing's integrated wealth experience. Pershing LLC and Pershing Advisor Solutions LLC are both members of FINRA and SIPC.
Have you wanted to speak a new language, but you thought it'd be too hard?
or take too much time? Then go to Babbel.com, download the app, and try it for free. In just 15 minutes a day, you'll be on your way to speaking a new language in just a few weeks. And right now, you can try Babbel for free. Babbel starts out teaching you words and phrases by matching them with pictures. You won't believe how easy the interactive program is. Soon the sentences get a little bigger, and before you know it, you're having simulated conversations voiced by native speakers. And because Babbel is crafted by language experts and uses the spaced repetition method, in just 10 to 15 minutes a day, you'll be speaking the language of your choice with real confidence. With Babbel, you can speak a language. Just go to Babbel.com and start your first lesson in the language of your choice for free. Download the Babbel app or go to Babbel.com and try it for free. That's Babbel.com.
What if you could keep the top economic...
At Asda, we know everyone has their favourite chockies, which is why these great brands are at the very sweet price of just £3 each, including pouches of Toblerone, Celebrations, Quality Street and Roses. Asda, let's make Christmas extra special. Selected stores online subject to availability. Pouches 340 grams to 450 grams.
Cutting for the net, scores! On the goal line, Marchand scores!
Hockey fans, the 2019-20 NHL season is here.
And tucks it home!
And with this team, it's really fun to be a part of a team like that.
You can hear the action live on TuneIn Premium. From regular season action to the All-Star Game and through the Stanley Cup in June. Hear the home and away call for every game, for every team live. At home or on the go, never miss a game with the NHL on TuneIn Premium.
Upgrade today. This is the TuneIn Newsreel with top news stories from today.
On Wall Street, stocks jumping after the government reported employers added far more jobs than expected in November. 266,000 positions. Estimates were for around 180,000. The unemployment rate ticked down to 3.5%. That's a 50-year low. Some podcast creators coming into a pot of money. The creators of My Favorite Murder, a popular true crime podcast, signing a deal worth at least $10 million with EW Scripts, according to the Wall Street Journal. The deal is one of the largest ever of its kind. And if you're wondering where your Amazon package is, well, it may be late. Just a week into the holiday shopping season, Amazon is already having trouble getting packages to shoppers. The company saying delays are due to bad weather in parts of the country and the large number of orders it received during Black Friday and Cyber Monday. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Lillian Wu, invested in you.
Hear breaking news as it happens with live around-the-clock coverage from Fox News on TuneIn.
Introducing a new podcast, ESPN Daily. When you want to go beyond your feed, when you want to get inside the score, when you want to get behind the highlight, there's ESPN Daily. Go deeper into the stories of the moment. Get the exclusive access and insider perspective that only ESPN can give you. ESPN Daily, hosted by me, Mina Kimes. Listen now to ESPN Daily on TuneIn.
Hey, NFL fan, can't watch the game? Can't be there? No biggie. With your TuneIn Premium membership, you already have an all-access pass to every team and every game in the league. Amazing, right?
Steps up, floats it towards, at the goal line, it's intercepted!
Listen live as the action unfolds or on demand when you can. Anytime, anywhere, all season long.
Right side, it is caught. It is in for the right side for the touchdown to Keenan.
Search NFL today.
When you're not listening to your team, take it to the end zone, the rim, or the net. Keep up with the biggest moments in sports by following TuneIn on social media.
Block, Cook into the end zone for the touchdown.
From reminders of the live top games to tips of the best sports stations and podcasts.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip
Follow
Bayless.
and TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
Like what you're listening to? Want to make getting back to it easier? Use the favorite button to keep track of the stations and podcasts you love on TuneIn. Just tap or click the heart icon to add it to your favorites. Then find all your go-to audio under the Favorites tab. Pretty easy, right?
24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters in New York, I'm Doug Krisner. We had some weakness in equities today, although trading was very light. A lot to see in the coming days in terms of a potential catalyst. But for the moment, not much in the way of market-moving news. We do have later in the week 2 key central bank meetings, one from the Fed, the other the ECB, and then, of course, on Sunday, that looming deadline in the U.S.-China trade war, and whether the U.S. will go ahead with planned tariff increases targeting about $160 billion worth of Chinese goods. S&P 500 on the day down about 0.3%. Volume in the S&P roughly 20% below that 30-day average. Dow Industrials falling about 0.4%. Similar decline for the NASDAQ Composite. Morgan Stanley is cutting about 1,500 jobs globally. This will include several managing directors. It's part of a year-end push to efficiency. Now, we're told that Morgan will, as a result of these job cuts, face a charge of between $150 million to $200 million. Now, elsewhere on the trade story, away from U.S.-China, we are told the Trump administration and House Democrats have a tentative deal on the new NAFTA. This would be the USMCA, the U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreement. U.S. 10-year Treasury last quoted in New York at a yield of 1.81%. The dollar down against the majors, with the Bloomberg Dollar Spot Index losing about 0.1%. The yen firm here at 108.56, and a weaker offshore Chinese currency at 7.0352 against the dollar. Coming up at 6 p.m. Wall Street time here on Bloomberg Radio, Carol Masser and Jason Kelly, hosts of Bloomberg Business Week, will be at the Bloomberg 50. So in a walk up to the event, we spoke with Business Week editor Joel Weber and Business Week features editor Brett Began about the list of people who defined 2019.
It's that time of year, the Bloomberg 50. We've been talking about Baby Yoda. Baby Yoda isn't on the Bloomberg 50, but...
I'm going to say mistake, but that's okay. We'll get to that later.
We upped the ante. Baby Yoda's boss is on the list. That's what's so cool. Joel Weber just pointed that out to me. He's here in our Bloomberg Interactive.
We thought of everything. We were way ahead of it.
Way ahead. Brett
Baby
Began.
Yoda's agent is calling right
exactly.
now. Hey.
2020.
Yeah, okay. Stay tuned.
Brett Began, he's the architect of this entire thing. It is a labor of love or something like it. It's just an amazing sort of tour de force, and you really understand 2019 in all its complexity if you just read this list. So, Brett, tell us how this all gets put together.
Yeah, so we start about 6 months ago, something like that, and we poll the reporters and writers really throughout the organization on who they think is doing particularly well this year, and who's on their radar in the areas that they cover, and also who has a really firm, provable piece of data to back up the fact that they think they're doing well. So that's how we start, and we sort of winnow down from there.
That part's key, though, right? Like, everybody's got a list of some variety, and it can be really subjective. And the thing that's really distinguished our version of one of these end-of-year lists is that there's actually a metric, and everyone has to have a metric in order to even be considered. And then it's sort of like a big bake-off of who's got the best metrics. And it's entirely global. We have an amazing amount of parity, both among men and women. And we also had an object of some sort this year, Brett. What was that? Do
this was
a delicious object.
A delicious late add to the list. Popeye's chicken sandwich. We have made
my stomach just growled.
An actual entry on the list. So not Popeye's the business, the actual chicken sandwich is on the list. And they basically they had a 3-month supply, or so they thought, and that ran out in 14 days.
Right.
And that's a good metric. And broke the internet in the process.
Basically broke the internet.
I mean, people were lining up for this thing, right?
Oh,
people died.
Somebody got stabbed waiting in line for
we
one of these.
We should not laugh, Joe Weber.
Yeah. No, I mean, they did not. I would say there were some supply chain issues.
Yeah.
We could put it that way.
Didn't you say? I think the write-up that people were showing up, like you could show up and bring your own buns because we had the chicken. I guess
they actually were offering a BYOB version. If you bought your own buns buns, they would give you some chicken and you could put it on your own bun. It is kind of insane, and it was basically became huge because of a Twitter war between them and Chick-fil-A.
So that's a fun one, but
Yes.
I think there's some really other serious ones on the list as well. One that we talked about for a long time was the Hong Kong protesters, right?
Right. We spent a lot of time on them, and so they're on the list because, by their measures, there were at times 2 million people protesting. The protests have gone on for 6 months, and, a lot of times protests like this sort of reach a natural conclusion. There's a sort of ebb and flow to it. This one is not. And so it actually, to Joel's point, when you're writing about something like this, you're trying to sort of, you're writing about a moving target at all times.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, some of the famous people on the list are interesting, but in part because of that metric element, you really have to have a hardcore superlative in many ways.
Yeah, you could have Warren Buffett on this list every year.
Exactly.
The point of us doing it this way is to say, okay, but did he have a demonstrable thing that he did this year that really distinguishes him from his peers? And,
That's right.
And no, Uncle Warren did not.
Like Ms. Jenner.
Yeah, Kylie Jenner, the world's youngest billionaire entrepreneur, self-made billionaire, 22, not bad.
Gen Z's first billionaire.
Gen Z's first billionaire.
And reaching that status alone probably would have gotten her on the list, and then just because she wanted to be on this list so badly, she went and did a deal.
That's right. She knew she might have a shot of getting on the list. And so she went and did this deal with Cody, which bought a majority stake in the line for $600 million.
Seal the deal.
Assuring her inclusion on the list.
That's right. Once that happened, she was definitely on.
I have to say, I love, too, that you've got some athletes, female athletes, that are really notable.
Yeah, so we have the U.S. women's national soccer team, which is now responsible for the 2 single most viewed soccer games in the history of our country.
Hear that, men? Soccer players?
Yeah.
Soccer team?
And to that point, they have been fighting for pay equity.
Right.
And so that, added an extra layer of interest to us putting them on the list. All 28 of them voice that concern. And really what they're asking for is what Australia recently did with its soccer team, is they decided to have parity there.
And I love that you did Simone Biles as a former
Yes.
gymnast, man. This Chiquita is unbelievable.
Yeah.
She is an unbelievable athlete.
25 world championship medals makes her the most celebrated or decorated gymnast in world championship history.
You might need multiple rooms for that kind of trophy
That's
shelf.
a lot of gold.
Yeah, exactly. I'll just keep expanding this trophy room.
That is a lot of gold.
Who's one to watch? I love that list.
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot on ones to watch here. This is a lot of fun. Actually,
that's right. These are the ones that aren't maybe demonstratable this year, but ones that we think either next year or in years to come, these are people that we think are ones to watch.
I got especially excited because Jason Kelly's on the list.
I didn't know my co-anchor was going to be on the list.
And then I realized I am not one to watch. There's another.
Well, you are, but not
officially.
Yeah, Jason Kelly, the co-founder and CEO of Ginkgo Bioworks, the genetic biology company that's genetically engineering stuff for fertilizer and drugs and food flavorings and a lot of other applications.
That is Bloomberg's Jason Kelly there, and his co-host Carol Masser speaking with Bloomberg Business Week editor Joel Weber and Business Week features editor Brett Began. They are talking about the list of people who defined 2019, those folks being the Bloomberg 50. And that special event will get underway at 6 p.m. Wall Street time at the Morgan Library here in New York City. Among the featured guests, Boris Jordan, the chairman of the cannabis company Curaleaf. Stephanie Kelton will be there. She is a noted economist from SUNY Stony Brook. And the co-founders of the podcast company Gimlet, Alex Blumberg and Matt Lieber, will be on hand for the Bloomberg 50. 6 p.m. Wall Street time at the Morgan Library in New York City. We've got Bloomberg Best coming up in most markets at the top of the hour. Daybreak Asia at 7 p.m. Wall Street time. All ahead here on Bloomberg Radio.
Experts like to be part of Bloomberg.
Sometimes in business, you have to take risks, but trading across borders and currencies shouldn't be one of them. With Western Union Business Solutions, we can help you manage the risk of doing business internationally. Our valuable experience, expert knowledge, and extensive global network makes us the ideal trusted partner for your business. And with our customer-focused support team, you'll receive a dedicated solution and personalized service. Visit westernunionbusiness.com. Western Union Business Solutions, a global financial network you can trust.
Coffee shop, cashback, cat flaps, cashback, beanbags, rucksack, hire car, buy a car, flapjack, cashback, dumbbells, cashback, takeaway, holiday to anywhere the sun is at, bum bag, laptop, big match, hatchback, binge watching, paintballing, crab fishing, cashback, anything you want to buy, everywhere you want to go. Guess what? Cashback. Whatever you spend your money on, get money back every time with the American Express Platinum Cashback Everyday Credit Card. Search Amex Cashback. Representative 22.9% APR variable. Minimum annual spend to receive cashback. Terms apply. 18 plus subject to approval.
Want to hear about the latest and greatest things to listen to on TuneIn? For reminders of the biggest live sports games, debates, and breaking news stories, follow @TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to stay connected with the audio that matters to you.
Calling for the snap. He finally gets it. Throws a pass. Back in the end zone. Leaping one-hand catch. Touchdown.
Tonight, tune in has your Monday night NFL football with the New York Giants at the Philadelphia Eagles. Kickoff at 8:15 p.m. Eastern.
Got a block at the 10, inside the number 5. Breaks a tackle. Into the end zone. Touchdown.
At home or on the go, hear the home and away call of every NFL game this season on TuneIn Premium.
Receiver in motion. Handoff goes to the running back. Touchdown, Carson. Easily.
Upgrade today.
This is not a commercial. This is a reminder. With TuneIn Premium, you could be listening to more music commercial-free. Get over 45 commercial-free music stations. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
The puck drops. 12 players face off to win. The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. TuneIn brings you every minute of the NHL season. Listen live to hockey when it matters most on TuneIn.
From ESPN and the award-winning producers of The Sterling Affairs comes the latest season of 30 for 30 podcasts. 4 brand new stories of espionage.
He wanted this team to be the Barcelona of women's basketball.
Resilience.
I started to scream. I tried to get away.
Corruption.
It's the culture of win at all costs.
And rebirth.
How will we ever rebuild it?
30 for 30 Podcasts, Season 6. Listen now to 30 for 30 Podcasts on TuneIn.
Don't want to miss a second of your NFL team's next matchup? Let TuneIn remind you. Just make sure notifications are enabled on your phone and search for your team profile on the TuneIn app. Then, find the game you want under events and tap Notify Me. We'll send you an alert as soon as live coverage begins.
Today at Bloomberg.com, on the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is Bloomberg Radio.